Hello, my name is Dan Skip Allen, and this is Season 2. Yes, you heard that right. Season 2 of the 52 must-see movies and why they matter. And to get it started in Season 2, I'm not messing around. We're going with the home run, The Godfather. And then Episode 2 is going to be The Godfather Part 2. It's a two-part season premiere of the 52 must-see movies and why they matter. And with Season 2 comes a new channel and some new co-hosts. And the first new co-host in Season 2 is Mr. Jeremy Adams. Jeremy, thank you for coming on this journey with me in Season 2. Hopefully it's a great year for the 52 must-see movies and why they matter.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me. And it really is... it really does me great honor to be on the first episode, and I'm just thrilled, and there's nothing better to talk about than this, so it can't go wrong.
Well, it's Season 1, we talked about Casablanca, and I wanted to go and do a home run on Season 2 at the beginning. So, and I want to say the new channel is Full Metal Media. All the videos will be on Full Metal Media's YouTube channel and their Facebook page. And of course, my channel as well, because I'll be hosting them, and then we'll move around with different co-hosts and different guests. We're going to have some guest hosts this year for specific movies, so it's going to be a lot of different people doing episodes. But the one thing you can always find is everybody that's going to be talking about these films loves these films, and they're going to love talking about them with somebody else, or it could be Jeremy, it could be me involved again. So with that being said, let's get into talking about The Godfather. Now, The Godfather, 1972, Best Picture winner, Best Director, Best Actor. It won a bunch of Oscars. It's a phenomenal movie. The cast is Marlon Brando is Vito Corleone. Michael Corleone is played by Al Pacino. James Caan plays Santino or Sonny Corleone. Robert Duvall plays Tom Hagen. Talia Shire plays Connie Corleone. We also have Diane Keaton plays Kay Adams Corleone. And, Adams.
That's true.
John Cazale plays Fredo Corleone. Mm-hmm. We also have Abe Vigoda, who plays Tessio. We have who else have we got in here?
So many great actors. John Marley, Al Lettieri.
Al Lettieri plays Saluzzo. Richard. I get my names. Richard.
Which character are you talking?
Richard Castellano plays Clemenza.
Yes, Richard Castellano. Yes.
I have all the names written down here.
Yeah. And John Marley is Jack Woltz, the movie mogul. Yeah, it's such a deep cast.
Oh my God, I could go on and on.
Oh yeah.
The score, I wanted it because the movie starts with, oh God, in an amazing, like wow, this is how this movie starts, with this musical composition, and the score is done by I have down here.
Nino Rota.
Wow.
Yeah. Nino Rota.
Yeah, here it is. I got it right here. It's Carlo. It's Nino Rota and Carlo Savina. Carlo Savina and Nino Rota. Yeah. Oh my God! It's like gets you into the movie right off the bat. I mean, you're like, oh God, this is how we get this movie started. And of course, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. And all right, now Jeremy, just talk about the cast, or anything you have to say about any of the things I just mentioned.
Well, so while I'm thinking of it, first off, I just want to say that Nino Rota was the composer for Federico Fellini on many of his great films, including La Dolce Vita. And when Francis Ford Coppola was making this movie, I think he always kind of had this attitude that he wanted to make kind of art movies, and this was kind of a job for hire. So while we all think of it as this great artistic achievement, that wasn't really Coppola's, viewpoint going in. It was a popular novel, kind of a pulpy novel, and he kind of looked at it as, like a lesser thing that he was working on. But that being said, he wanted to give it as much art as he could. So he was looking to bring the best people in. And for the composer, he thought, let me get what I think is the greatest composer composer, Nino Rota, who did all these great art films. Let's bring that to it. And then when you talk about the actor, the first thing he said was, well, it's the Godfather. This is such a great, such an important character, obviously the most important character. Let's get the greatest actor of all time. Who's the greatest actor of all time? And they're like, well, is Laurence Olivier or Marlon Brando? And they're like, and they actually reached out to Olivier, and he couldn't do it for reasons. So then they went to Brando, and then Brando had a rocky stretch at that point in his career. So the studio didn't want him. They had to convince them. They had to do makeup tests, and it's just to think. Sometimes to make a great work of art, you have to have high standards. And I think Coppola had such high standards for every piece of this. And I think that is what led to it being elevated, led to it not being just a pulpy movie, but being this great work of art, which wasn't even something Coppola thought it could be.
No. And of course, it's famous now, the competition. I get it's not really a competition, but the battle, Al Pacino, the back and forth with the producers and the people involved, who they wanted to be Michael Corleone. And Al Pacino, it wasn't like to us today, it's like, oh, it's a no-brainer, Al Pacino. It wasn't a no-brainer whatsoever. It was a knockout, drag-out battle between Francis Ford Coppola and the producers in the studio to get Al Pacino to get that role. And of course today it's just like, thank God. When you hear how the luck of these roles sometimes lands in people's laps, you can't even think of anybody else as that character anymore, because it's so phenomenal. And I did a show with a friend of ours named Dave, and he asked me what my number one movie character of all time. I said Michael Corleone. It is a
great show with it.
The greatest character of all time. And Dave's show, Dave hopefully will be on an episode pretty soon. Yep. Dave is great. I love the podcast.
Yeah, the podcast is This Made Your List. Everyone check it out, please. Great podcast. Both Dan and I have been on it. So,
Okay, so the two main things to start it off, we're at Connie's wedding. The movie starts off at Connie's wedding, and one of the cool things about The Godfather is you can't turn people away at these weddings. So at the wedding or these kinds of things, you have to listen to people. And so he gets a undertaker who comes to him. The first thing is this undertaker comes to him and says, this guy's treating my daughter wrong, and he really abused. And of course, Vito goes, well, what? He says, I went to the cops and he got off. He got out of 3-year sentence and he got out, and now he's walking the streets. And Vito's, well, why didn't you come to me first? Well, I didn't want to get into your world, this, that, and the other. And then he says, whatever I could do for you, I'll do it. I just need your help. And finally, Vito kind of says, okay, all right, I'll help you out. And what I love about movies is callbacks.
Oh yeah,
they call back for that.
That favor is going to come back. You're in the back of your mind for the whole movie. You're like, when is that favor going to come back? Because they wouldn't have spent 5 minutes setting that up for nothing.
No, and it's
great.
It was a great beginning of the movie. That was a great way to start the movie.
Oh yeah.
And of course, real quick, I wanted to bring up, you're a cat lover. I love cats. I don't have one right now. The cat. This is a interesting. I'm not going to talk about this very long. But there's a studio cat that was.
It was loose. It was stray.
And then for some reason, the only person that could get close to the cat was Brando. So it wasn't even in the script. But this cat, he's over here stroking this cat. He's got this cat. The cat's not even supposed to be in the scene. He's got this cat in his hands.
One of the most iconic things was just something that just happened, and you see that a lot in great films. It's always mind blowing. Just a couple of things I wanted to bring up real fast. Just the way that the movie starts, the first line, I believe in America. Like one of the greatest lines to open a movie over a black screen. We don't even know what we're seeing. And just that a person with a heavy accent says, I believe in America. And then you will see how much that really means and like how there are different levels to that as it goes on. Maybe not in such a good way. That's a brilliant thing. The beginning of the movie is so dark, the way that it takes time before it actually gets to Brando and you actually see him. And when you do see him, he's so shaded in shadow. And another fight that Coppola had with the studio was for the photography of Gordon Willis. Gordon Willis wanted to make this a very dark film, lots of shadows, and the studio wanted him fired at every turn of the way. It was a constant fight. And can you imagine this movie without that dark opening, without that ominous lighting throughout the film? It really gives it its character. And Gordon Willis, you know, such a genius. So those are the two things I have to bring up like right away with this first scene.
Yeah, no, you're, oh God, that's one of the things that makes this movie, these two movies, so phenomenal. It's just the darkness and the grittiness, and you could tell the time period. The time of The Godfather was 1946. I wanted to make sure
it kind of calls back to film noir, like those movies that are dark, but it's very different at the same time with the saturated color and the kind of the like sepia tone to a lot of it. It's got such a unique it's like it's paying homage to former film noir gangster movies while creating something new, something kind of rooted in the past. And it's so brilliant. And movies didn't look like that then. It was, you know, they were doing so many new things with this film. No wonder the studio was freaking out, but man, they had a vision, and it's so crazy.
Absolutely. Going on, you know, the wedding, a lot of different little things happen at the wedding. One of the things is Johnny Fontaine is a singer, actor. He's kind of like Sinatra.
Yeah.
He's kind of like a takeoff of like a Frank Sinatra, where he's a singer and actor. And so he is, I guess he kind of Vito took him in, or he was like a friend of the family as a little kid. And so they worked their way. He helped him out and whatnot as a little kid. And so Johnny comes to, obviously, like I said, the wedding. People come and they have to talk to the Godfather. And one of them is Johnny Fontaine. And he comes and he says, hey, I got this role that I want to do, this war movie in California. And the director doesn't want to cast me, but it's a perfect role for me. And can you help me? And then he's like, crying. I don't know what to do. I'm crying. Of course, one of the famous lines is, act like a man. Stop crying. Act like a man. And then, of course, while he's talking to him, I mean, either shortly before or shortly after, Michael is telling his girlfriend at the time, Kay, about the story. Because she's like, oh, how do you guys know Johnny Fontaine? She got these two scenes. They're almost like back to back. Where, and the thing is, she goes, how did he get him to help Johnny Fontaine? And that's how the
band leader they gave him that. He had a contract with the band leader. He had to get out of it to start his movie career.
That's right.
She said, why did the band leader let him out of the contract?
That's right. He made him an offer. He couldn't go back to Johnny Fontaine, but with The Godfather, he said, act like a man, stop crying. And then he's I don't know what to do. And he says, what are you going to do? How are you going to help me? He says, I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse, which, I'm going back to Dave. That was my favorite quote of all time.
Hard to beat. You can't get deep in this movie without talking about the quotable dialogue. It's just, it's amazing to think how many memorable lines. I mean, some of them came from the book, but it's just the way that the lines are utilized in this movie. And the other great line right there is when he asked him about the band leader. She said, well, why did he let him out of the contract? He said, the story is they held a gun to his head and said either your signature or your brains will be on the contract. And it's like, and that tells you so much right there. The writing in this film is so amazing. The screenplay, it all starts there, and it's just impeccable, right from these early scenes. And to have a big scene like this that goes on and on, this wedding sequence is so brilliant. You've got so many characters being introduced. It's done so elegantly, the way the scene weaves in and out. It's such a wonderful way to start a film and to start an epic story that is going to be this big. So, So
then we got to go to your neck of the woods, Jeremy, California. We're going to go to California. We're going to talk to Mr. Waltz, and sends none other than Tom Hagen, basically his son. He pulled him up from the gutter.
Yes.
Took him in as
adopted son.
Robert Duvall, and says, Tom, I need you to go to California. I need to talk to this guy, Waltz, convince him to give Johnny the role. And, of course, we get two scenes with Waltz. One is he's in the studio signing something or taking pictures, and then he talks to him. He says, Johnny Fontaine, I'll never get that role. And then he says, all right, sir, thank you very much. I have to, okay, I'll see you later. And then come to find out, he does find out who Tom Hagen works for, his client that he works for, and he to his house, and he says, I work for one client. I don't have like a major firm or nothing like this. And my client is Vito Corleone, the Corleone family. And he sits them down, they have dinner, and then of course the whole story about taking this great actress that he groomed. She was going to be a great actress, and Johnny took her away and ruined her, and he got all at that. And so he says, I don't care what you Dago, Wop, Guineas bring out of the woodwork. Johnny Fontane will never get that role. Of course, Tom says, thank you very much. I appreciate it. The Don wants to hear bad news right away. So he leaves. He gets up. He leaves. But we don't leave as viewers. We get another chance to see Mr. Waltz waking up the next morning because he had previously walked him around his gate. And one of the things he shows him was a $600,000 horse that he's not going to race or anything. He's gonna put out to stud. And of course, we find Mr. Waltz in the bed, and there's blood all over the bed. He pulls up the covers, and what do you got? You got the horse's head, and he's going, ah! He's screaming like a crazy man. Talk about that whole sequence, Jeremy.
I'm sorry, I've got a lot of feedback. I don't know if that's on whose end that's on.
I'm sorry. No, I don't have anything on my end. But
I'm sorry. I might have to. All right, there we go. Okay, we're good. Sorry, I was getting terrible feedback. All right, it's amazing. Like, we're still kind of setting up this movie at this point, and then this is like a scene out of a horror movie. It like takes a left turn. It really feels like a horror scene, and it's so terrifying and so effective. And it really sets up this world like, these guys will go to some dark places, and, we don't know. It's such a memorable moment, such a shocking moment. And this was at a time in the 70s where, we finally were getting R-rated movies. The production code had been lifted, and movies were taking risks and going to darker places. And I think for this movie and for cinema in general, this was a real important moment. It's a very memorable moment, and a moment that, blew minds, and it's still as effective today. I mean, great artistry with the horse's head, the art department to create that. It's just so amazing, and I think one of the key moments in the movie for setting you up with all the horrors that will come later. Like, a lot of crazy stuff happens up later on in this movie, and we have to be ready for it. We have to kind of be prepared, and I think this is an important moment for that.
Yeah, well, another key scene, they mention a meeting from Virgil Saluzzo wants a meeting with Vito, and so they all start talking about what Saluzzo wants, and it's about getting into the drug trade and getting into narcotics, and Vito listens to Tom and listens to Sonny and listens, and then he goes to the meeting and he talks to him and he listens. What I like really is he doesn't talk before he lets Saluzzo talk and explain why he needs $2 million and he needs his help. And then he explains, he says, you know what? I'm into the casinos, and I'm into prostitution, and we're into some of this stuff, but drugs is something that could really eat away at our core, our children and our families' values and stuff. Some of the vices that we have, gambling and that sort of stuff, is kind of, they're just vices, but they're not something that can destroy you and destroy your family. And so I don't want to get into it, but Sonny almost makes mistakes, and he says something, and he's like, afterwards, he says, Sonny, never let your thoughts get outside the family. Don't say things. Go ahead.
So many great, they're always building character. This is a key moment for Sonny's character, for us knowing who this guy is and like how he's going to be going forward with being this kind of hothead. So they're building up so many things. I just wanted to mention the drug. Like, we have to mention Mario Puzo, who wrote the novel, and it was such a well-researched novel because this really was a key moment in the history of the organized families in New York. This this point where drugs and heroin were coming on the scene, and the way that he builds that, the way that he builds this Frank Sinatra stuff, everything from real history is built into the story, and it really gives it so much more weight. So it's not just a bunch of made up stuff. And there have been a lot of lesser gangster movies that they just kind of make things up and let's just call the guy Vito or whatever. But this movie is so rooted in history and in the reality of this stuff, and it really feels like it every step of the way, and we really understand the motivations of the characters so well, you know, and it's real history, so it really means a lot.
And after the meeting with Sollozzo, basically Vito / the Godfather tells Luca Brasi, hey, go talk to Talia's people and act like you're not in good terms with us, and you kind of want to, you know, go over to them. But somebody's a step ahead at this point.
Yeah.
And that's Sollozzo, because when you have the walking, I love it when the Luca Brasi walking down the hallways. The walking down the hall is interesting, how they just have these people walking down the hallway. But he ends up talking to them, and they act like, okay, you want to join us, and then they ambush him. And
Sollozzo's son, I believe that's Sollozzo's son. And we know at this point the Sollozzo family's involved. Not Sollozzo, I'm sorry, Talia. Talia's son, they're involved with Sollozzo. So we know this thing is going a little deeper. How deep is it going to go? You know, this is kind of setting everything up. And yeah, talk about that moment, because, oh my God, the horse's head was bad enough. This moment is the one that really gets me.
Yeah, they start talking Italian, and then he basically, they trap him in there and they stab him in the hand. Oh. Then a guy comes up behind him and chokes him out with that wire. That
the garroting. It's the garroting wire.
Yeah, you'll see this used in a lot of different gangster films, but The Godfather, they use it a lot in the Godfather films. And then this leads directly into Fredo saying that Don Vito's driver called off that day, and that Fredo had to drive him. And so Fredo is driving his father, but when he gets some vegetables, he's out in the open and he doesn't have the proper protection. And that's when Sollozzo and Talia's people try to assassinate Don Vito Corleone.
As far as we know, they did at this point in the story. It's kind of like, you know, he may be dead. They don't really tell us, which is I think a pretty brave thing for 72 to do that with your audience. Yeah,
absolutely. And Fredo sees this all going, he drops the gun. It's like,
and now we're learning about Fredo's character. They're always character building.
Oh my God, get me started about Fredo. He's just such a putz. He's not gonna be the big shot of this family. And so then Sollozzo tries to talk to them because he doesn't want any more bloodshed. But Sonny and them are all arguing. They don't know what to do. You know, Tom and Sonny and everybody's arguing, and they get a delivery, and it's a package, and it's a vest with some fish in it, and that means they know, because they don't know where Luca Brasi is. They're like, where's Luca? Why isn't he around? And they go, okay, well, that's what happened with Luca. That's a sign saying Luca swims with the fishes.
Another legendary line.
It's just, I mean, when Bob Costas, a sportscaster, is using references to Luca Brasi swims with the fishes on sports broadcasts, you know it has transcended everything when stuff like that gets on TV in regular sports. And so then Michael tries to go. Michael is with Kay, but then he says, "I gotta leave because I gotta go to the hospital to visit." He wants to go visit his father at the hospital, but he notices all the guys guarding his father, the police, the whatever guys that they have, are all gone, and he's like, "What's going on here? Where is everybody?" And he grabs the nurse and he convinces the nurse to move his father to another room.
Yeah.
And then I love it. The baker just happens to show up there.
Enzo the baker.
He wanted to give
Poor
his
guy.
regard. He's like,
poor guy.
who are you? I'm the baker. All right, get over here. Get out of here. Go out to the front door. Act like you're waiting for me. Go out to the front door. So then he moves them to another room. Then he goes down. They stand out there, and a car shows up, which is going to be another attempt because Salazzo was pissed off. He's like, I can't believe it. He 5 bullets in him, and he still is not dead. And so then the two guys are standing out there acting all tough, watching him. And then the car drives up, and they pull out like what they're trying to act like they have a gun in their pocket. But then they drive away. But then the cops show up. After this, the cops show up. So make what you want out of all this, Jeremy. I mean, we're starting to get into the main part of the story now.
It's just one classic scene after another. This whole sequence, so much tension, and then this is like we've gotten little bits of the character, but now we it's funny how they set up these characters because Sonny, he's a little bit of a hothead. Fredo, he's cowardly, wimpy. Tom Hagen is a really smart guy, but he's the side guy. But now we get Michael, and we see Michael in this tense situation, and the way that he plays this, the intelligence, the coldness, like he doesn't get emotional. Like you see Enzo at one point, like freaking out, his hand shaking, like anyone would. Michael's so calm and so cool. It's like, oh, okay, this guy, like we know at this point, this guy has something that no other character in this movie has, and this is through great tense storytelling. It's almost like every sequence, like we had the horror movie sequence, we've had like other types of filmmaking, and now we get like this is like Hitchcockian. Like this is such a Hitchcock sequence, and they do this to tell us about this character, about Michael, and who he really is and who he might end up being. So it's a fantastic, important part of the movie for sure.
And then now here comes, in my opinion, one of the greatest scenes in movie history. I mean, easily one of the greatest scenes in movie history up there. Just there's only a few scenes better. If not, this might be better. Who knows? Okay, now our guys are basically at the point where they know they have got to do something. And this is when Michael, just like you just said, he steps up to the plate and says, guys, we have, what rule is there? Because the guys are talking about they can't kill McCluskey, the police chief captain, and they can't, what are they going to do? And they want a meeting. Salazzo and McCluskey want a meeting because they want to kind of get this thing, stop this war from escalating any further. And Michael's like, why can't we kill a cop? What says we can't kill a cop? Blah, blah, blah. And then they start talking about it, and then they plot a plan, and then they find out where it's going to be at this Italian, I think is it Ray's Italian restaurant, or I think it's Ray's Italian restaurant. Yeah. And he's like, this is what we'll do. We'll what's his face? Castellanos.
Clemenza, yes. Yeah.
Clemenza, Richard Castellano plays Clemenza. He says, I can get one of my guys. I'll make sure the gun is there. And we're going to have this meeting with Michael.
In the toilet.
Salazzo and McCluskey. And, I'll tell you what. And it's the insults from Salazzo, the way he's talking. And Michael, you just see Michael's face. He just gets – and McCluskey's eating his veal, and he's having a good old time eating. Just listen. Oh, I got
the great Sterling Hayden. By the way, we got to mention Sterling Hayden real quick. One of the great character actors from Kubrick's The Killing. So many great films. Dr. Strangelove. He's the insane general that goes off, and he definitely brings a lot in these scenes. He's such a scumbag. Like maybe the sleaziest character in the movie of all these sleazy characters. Had to mention him.
Yeah, so. Of course, Michael's got to go to the bathroom. He's got to look for the gun. He's got to come out. He's got to remember. He's had like 3 people tell him, you just got to drop the gun, right? Once you shoot, you got to drop the gun. And he sits there. He listens to some more of the insults. Then he says, I had enough. Boom, 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 boom. 2 shots apiece. He's walking out, drops the gun, and I think it's one of the greatest scenes.
It really is. And you know, that violence at the time, like, you know, we'd had Bonnie and Clyde, we'd had some movies up to this point, but this is really feels real. And I love the moment where he kind of shoots McCluskey in the neck, and he's like, the blood spurting out, and he's like it's so real, it's so brutal. Like, this isn't like we'd had all these years of kind of stylized violence in movies, and now to actually see this real level of violence, it really took cinema to a whole nother level. You know, I don't think we'd have Goodfellas or so many movies without the violence and the reality that The Godfather brought in these scenes.
No, you're absolutely right. So then, of course, Vito goes home, and it's a big deal. Vito goes home and stuff.
Yeah.
And
love
Michael,
that moment.
And then Michael, because of what he did, it's out in the open. And they have newspaper people, and newspaper people gets the story out into the newspaper. McCluskey, crooked cop, is in bed with Saluzzo and Talia and all these guys. So it's all over the papers, and they get it to where they're not the bad guys, but still Michael has to go to Italy to get out of there.
Plus the other families are going to kill Michael. Like, like he's in a lot of danger. He has to get, you know, somewhere safe. So
then obviously now Sonny's still in charge of the family at this point, and we're dealing with Carlo a little bit. Fine.
Carlo.
I think at the beginning at the wedding, you don't really see a lot of Carlo, but you know who Connie's married to is Carlo. But then we start getting Carlo involved in this, and then Carlo, we show Connie is beat up, and then of course Sonny has to go chase after Carlo, beat the crap out of Carlo, and then we got another scene with Carlo and Connie, and with Connie. She's like, "Oh, you just told me to make dinner. What do you mean you're going out? Oh, I'm not eating. I'm not hungry." And then she goes nuts, tears up the whole house. Then he gets out the top. He starts belting her, beating the crap out of her. And of course, she calls up Sonny on the phone. "Oh, I'm good." And there's that mother effer. Da, 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 da. And then so he's not thinking straight. Sonny's not thinking straight. He gets in his car.
Hothead.
Even though Tom's trying to chase him down, his guys are saying, "No, don't leave the house. Don't leave the area." They chase after him. He's running. And we got another classic scene where he's at the toll booth on the highway, and it was a trap. They got Sonny alone with him not thinking, and they just littered him with lead on the the toll booth. Highway booth.
Again, the level of violence is shocking, and it's kind of a callback to Bonnie and Clyde when they're killed in the car. But yeah, to have a character that we've come to invest in killed in this way, another incredible, shocking moment. And it's such great storytelling, the way that, okay, well, it's the sister. We're getting to know the sister. We're getting to know her shitty husband and all this stuff. But all the while, they're setting this up. There's nothing wasted in this film. It's a long movie, but there's not a wasted moment. Like, everything is setting up. Everything pays off from that very first scene with the favor to the guy in the beginning scene to, you know, Carlo and his Sonny's issues with him. Like, this is all setting up stuff, and it's so elegantly and beautifully done in the storytelling.
And this is where finally Vito's, I mean, he's in better health. He's like, "All right, I need a meeting with the 5 families. I need a meeting with Barzini and Talia, all the 5 families. We need to get this thing under control." So finally he has a meeting, and they discuss terms and whatnot. But then at the end of it, Vito, he's talking to Tom, and he's like, "Yeah, it was Barzini all along. Barzini had Talia with him. They've been trying to gang up on me the whole time, and it just took me this long to figure out that it was Barzini that's been doing this all along." Then we get our buddy the Undertaker back, and he says, Vito goes to him. He says, "I need my favor. I need my favor back. I need you to do everything in your power to make Sonny look presentable. His mother can't see him like this." And he shows him, and he's littered with blood and bullets and everything. And then
Brando, I just got to say, like, he's so great. Like he's such humanity, such emotion. The first scene where Duvall has to tell him that Sonny died is so powerful. Like he's not just a gangster. Like this guy there's so much that he brings to this character. Such tremendous and the way that, oh, what's it gonna be? What's it gonna be? What's the favor? And then we get the favor, and it's something so human and so emotional. It's such a great left turn.
No, you're absolutely right. I'm glad you brought up that.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want it. He still, even though he was sick and he had just been almost assassinated, and he wasn't feeling, he still knew things, and he kind of knew about Sonny. When Tom Hagen told him, he kind of already knew in a way, So that was then we go to Italy, which is this is a callback to the second film in a lot of ways because, and I'm not going to get into a whole lot, but the second film has two paralleling stories.
Yep.
So we go to Italy to get a little bit of taste of our paralleling stories because Michael's in, and he hadn't been around Kay. Kay comes to the house looking for him, and Tom's like, "Hey, I wish you would have called." But Michael's not around. We'll let you know. If he can get in touch with you, we'll let you know. Blah blah blah. So Kay kind of disappears.
Well, years are passing, right? I always got the idea that basically years pass and she doesn't hear a thing. It's so brutal.
I mean, this movie, it takes a lot of years. It doesn't seem like it when you're in the movie because it goes so fast. The scenes are just fast and furious. They're coming by and things are happening. You don't realize the years are going by like this. Yeah. But a lot of years, I think it was 7 years went by since the last time Kay saw Michael, which is
wow.
You're like,
that makes sense because in the second movie we're in the 50s, so that makes sense.
Yeah. Yep. So he meets and marries another girl in Italy. Her name is Apollonia.
Apollonia.
What a great, of all the names, Apollonia,
I have to say, I saw this movie as a younger man. Like I was pretty young, and I always had such a crush on her. It was like one of my first movie crushes. It's a beautiful Italian lady. Yeah.
She was definitely a pretty woman. What happens is they find out where Michael is. He's in Sicily, and unfortunately, a car that was meant for him to blow up.
Yeah,
he happened to be it because he's teaching her how to drive, and Apollonia dies.
He was betrayed by the guy who was like one of his bodyguards, Fabrizio. So he was betrayed there. And then a little side note, there was a deleted scene in the second that they filmed for the second movie where he actually finds Fabrizio and kills him. So that was something that was going to get paid off later on, actually, in the second film and never made it into the final cut. But if you search it, you can find that scene where it's, Fabrizio meets his end. Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this basically is the thing that causes Michael to come back home.
Yep.
And at this point, Michael basically gets the word from Vito that he's going to be the boss because Vito can't do it on his own. He's still very sick and old. And so Michael ends up going to Las Vegas, where previously, earlier in the movie, they sent Fredo to Las Vegas to work with Mo Green. Now, Mo Green is a casino mogul in Las Vegas. He is.
Yep.
And, Michael goes there, and it's like a party. It's like, what's going on here? I mean, get rid of these dancers. Get rid of these musicians. I'm here for business. I'm here. I'm here today. I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm not messing around here. And so he gets Mo Green. He starts talking to Mo Green. And
Alex Rocco, by the way, another great character actor. So many. It's bottomless.
It really is. These films have so many great character actors. It's unbelievable. Mo Green's one of the better ones. So he basically kind of talks down to Mo, and he says, "You're going to sell me your shares in the casinos, and I'm going to take over." He says, "You're going to sell me? No, you pay to me. I'm the guy in charge. You do what I say." Da 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 da. And then, of course, Fredo gets involved.
Yeah.
And when Fredo gets involved, that's kind of when we first see Michael's temper, because he goes after Fredo and says, "Fredo, you never take sides against the family ever again."
That is another one of those great lines, unforgettable lines. Never take sides against the family.
Never take sides against the family. And
have you ever said that to anyone in your family, by the way? Every once in a while, I like to throw that out there.
No.
Don't take sides against the family.
No, I've had my issues with my family members, but I've never.
keep it. That's a good line for the future. That comes in handy sometimes.
And so then we go back to Vito Corleone. He's playing in the yard, and it looks like he's playing. He's got his little grandson with him in the yard, and he keels over of a heart attack.
Yeah.
And so we finally one
of the greatest death scenes of all time. That's for sure. Like definitely top 5.
The kid doesn't know he's dead. He thinks he's playing around.
And the actor, the little child actor, didn't know what was going on. Like he really scared him when he put the orange in his mouth, like a great improv moment. And then yeah, the kid, he's on the ground dead, and the kid's just playing like the little actor, and it's such reality that Coppola brought to everything.
But before this, I want to go back real quick. Mm-hmm. When Vito basically kind of gives control of the family to Michael, he basically says, whoever comes to you and wants to make a deal,
that's the traitor.
Yeah,
and also the great speech. I never wanted this for you, Senator Corleone, President Corleone. Like Michael was never supposed to be this, and Michael was always supposed to be this. Like this was, he was so made for it, like even more than Vito in some ways, and the irony of that. And then
of all the places that they come to him at his father's funeral. I'm thinking to myself, what a dumb time to come to him. Because he's going to have that in his brain. He's going to know.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, Abe Vigoda.
Yeah. Little side note, by the way. This is Abe Vigoda's first movie. Isn't that mind-blowing?
What?
Yes. That was his first film. Yeah, he started acting professionally later in life. And it's just crazy to think that. And then it had a late life career. It was on the show Barney Miller, became a popular character actor after this. It's just, it's crazy. One of those crazy things. Wow. And he's so great as Don Tessio. What a great character.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. And in my notes, what I have is Michael cleans the slate. So after this,
there we go.
After this is, oh God, I love when all this stuff starts happening.
Oh yeah.
And of course, we always end and begin at something like a baptism or a first communion or a wedding.
Yeah, a wedding to the baptism.
Yeah. We have the baptism of Carlo and Connie's son, and this is where this. Oh God Almighty! Carlo is supposed to go off with somebody and do something. They say, "Hey, Carlo, go back to the apartment." And so Carlo's back at the apartment. Then Tessio's back at the house, and Tessio's supposed to go and do something. And they basically, Tom Hagen says, "Nah, I can't go." And all these guys surround Tessio, and Tessio goes, "Tell Don Vito it wasn't personal. It wasn't personal." And then Michael basically goes to the apartment and confronts Carlo and basically says, "Carlo, we weren't going to let you get away with doing what you did to Sonny. We knew it was you that set Sonny up like that.
Yeah,
we knew the whole thing was an act. But
he makes him believe he's going to kill him because he made a promise to Connie, and the guy like the panic on him, and I actually I think when I watched it for a second, they're not going to kill him. It's the power that Michael wields and the way that he convinces people of things. He really is truly becoming the Godfather in those late scenes.
Yeah, I mean that's where you really know that, and of course. Mo Green gets it in the song.
The editing of them killing all of the heads of the families, because it was Barzini. The big fan. He was the one pulling all the strings. It wasn't Talia. It wasn't Soloso. It was the big family, and they got to take them all out, and just the ruthlessness of killing them all one by one, and the editing in that sequence with the operatic music playing from the communion. I'm sorry, from the baptism, and then the saying the lines. The genius of Michael saying, "I renounce Satan," while I was seeing his handiwork of all these guys dying, like that just was such mind-blowing filmmaking at the time. Like this was setting up a filmmaking language that, I mean, in a way they're calling back to like movies like Battleship Potemkin back in the Zion era that had that cross-cutting with action and stuff, like showing us things cutting back and forth. So it was calling back to that, but at the same time it was so groundbreaking that they employed the editing in that way, and it's had such a lasting impact, like that sequence. And again, like I said earlier, when we saw the horse's head and we saw the levels these guys will go to, they're taking out all their enemies in one fell swoop, man. And the movie set us up for that. Like it didn't come out of nowhere. We know these guys are capable of this level of violence, and we saw it in the hospital scene. We saw Michael, such a cool guy. He's capable of this stuff, you know, and the movie so eloquently, it's so motivated in the story, and yet it's so mind-blowing at the same time, all that violence, and just masterful filmmaking.
Yeah, you know, and what Steven just said, they take out the 5 families. Martini, they have his cars outside of a building or a courthouse or whatever. And a police officer comes up and says, "Hey, man, you got to move. You can't park here." And blah, blah, blah. When he starts coming down, it's up, bam. That's one of Michael's guys.
Yeah, it's Al Neary. That's Al Neary, Michael's private bodyguard. And we kind of see it right away. And we're like, oh.
So he knocks him out. And then our buddy Clemenza walks. It was another funny scene, though. It was kind of funny because he's like exhausted. He's walking up all these scenes.
Yeah, he has to go up all the way.
And then he has to. He takes out 2 guys, and so, and then the thing I skipped over a little bit was when Michael came back, one of the first things he did, he went to Kay, and she's walking her children, and he says, "I'm sorry, I was gone so long, and I'm sorry I miss you, and this and that and the other. I want you to marry me, and I love you, and I can't live without you," and all this stuff. And so he ends up marrying Kay, and Kay is with him. And by the end of the movie, and another powerful scene.
Yeah.
You know, because Kay knows, because she was at the wedding at the beginning of the movie. She knows the lengths that this family will go to get what they want. And she basically tries to talk to Michael, and she says, "Hey, you know, what happened with Carlo?" And Michael's like, "Don't ask me about my business." And she says, "I know something happened to Carlo. I know you guys did something to Carlo." And then he says, "All right, one time I'll let you ask me about my family business." And she says, "Did you guys kill Carlo?" And this is when you know he is the Godfather. He is the leader of this family. He is the powerful man that he is, because he lies to her and he says, "No, we didn't kill him." And then she walks out of the room. Now, this is one shot. She walks out of the room. Michael's in the room. You start seeing other guys come around Michael.
Right where we started the movie, by the way. Right where it started, in that chair.
Yep. And one of the guys is Don Corleone. And then you see her look back, and you know she knows that he lied. And then the door shuts, and that's when the movie ends. And to me, that solidifies Michael as the man he is, and the man he will become, and the powerful man that he is, and that he needed that woman in his life to be the powerful man. All powerful men have a woman in their life. And in this world, the women don't mean anything.
Yeah.
Only one thing, and one thing only: to bring children into the world so they can pass on their legacy, and pass on their kingdoms and their whole world that they have into children, sons. And that's what Kay is there for. That scene at the end, and it was all cut in one scene. How him in the room, the guys coming up to him, Kay walking out, then the door shutting. It was that to end the movie on that scene is just so powerful. And you realize the people that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Even though you knew who you're dealing, but you really know who you're dealing with.
Yeah. I think the story of this movie is really this, and even more so in the sequel, but even in the first one, it's the story of the father and the son, and how we have this man Vito who's a criminal, but you know, he's got a code, he's got a morality, as a humanity to them. But then Michael, you know, emerges, and I don't think he has any of that. I think Michael's kind of a soulless guy, and when we see him lie to his wife like that, I don't think that's something Vito would have done. And I think, you know, there's just all these brutal things that he does. This is it's the story of a family decaying, really. It's the story of a generation passing. And I think it's also a story of generations in general, how older generations, there was more of a code, there was more people believed in things. And I think as time has gone on, a lot of that erodes from generation to generation. And with drugs coming into, you know, we see that in this movie, drugs come into society. Everything is eroding, and people are just, they're cold, and they do things for money, they do things because they think they have to, and they don't have that humanity. And that's really what the story of The Godfather is for me, and it's so powerful. And that shutting that door at the end, you know, we opened the door in the beginning, you know, Vito came out of that room, we opened the door to the story, and then Michael goes into that room, and it means something different, it means something darker, and that door closes. And that to me is the story of The Godfather.
Yeah, it really, I mean, the symbolism in this film is through the roof. It's the violence that it tells you about this way of life that these men and women are involved with. In the time. This is in the 1940s. It was a different era, a different kind of a time period, how people treated each other, and the power that people had, and the differences between today and a lot of years, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. I mean, it was such a different era. And I think Coppola really captures the time period and the violence in that way of life, the mob way, the Cosa Nostra. Obviously, it's a no-brainer why this film is such an essential film, and so many other gangster films that came after this. I mean, they try, you know, even Scorsese tries a couple times with Casino and Goodfellas. He almost gets there with Goodfellas, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would kind of put them side by side. Like they're both like equally great gangster movies, but they're so different. They take place in different eras, and The Godfather is a different kind of storytelling in the same milieu. And it's interesting how like violent and dark this movie is, and yet in a way we like these characters and we're fascinated by this world. And a lot of like real life gangsters actually were inspired by this movie and like took this movie as like they quoted the lines to each other, and they tried to be like the characters in the movie, which is obviously something Coppola never intended. He meant this to be a dark, like a morality tale, a dark morality tale about the dark. Like I said, I believe in America. This is the dark part of America we don't like to talk about. A lot of America was built on this stuff. A lot of America was built on immigrants coming over and carrying criminal practices. And he was trying to point that out. And yet it's such a great movie that people loved it. And they wanted to be like that. And that's just crazy how movies can kind of have those different effects.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In the 70s, it was a different era. And I think that this movie and its predecessor came out in the 70s. It tells you about the people that were living in the 70s and the changing over of the world that we lived in. And a real quick, I forgot to bring this up when I wanted to. Well, when they found out that the driver, Don's driver, didn't show up, he called out sick. They finally got him to come in. I don't care if he's got sniffles. He needs to get in here. And so they take him for a ride, and needless to say, they realized that he was the guy that set up Vito. So Clemenza had to take him out, and he had another guy with him. And of course, they're out in the middle of nowhere. We don't know at this point. We don't know where they're at. It could be New Jersey or wherever. Yeah. But he says, leave the gun, take the cannoli. And
those great lines.
I love leave the gun, take the cannoli. I think it's just just a fantastic line. And I meant going back to Dave's podcast, I mentioned it. I met the guy got shot. I sat him sign the bumper sticker, leave the gun, take the cannoli. So we got that trademarked. So, but I just want to bring that. I love that.
I was gonna bring that line up if you didn't. Yeah, there's just so many quotable lines in this film. There's even lines that aren't as well known. Like, to me, one of the signature lines, I actually have it right. One of the signature lines of this movie that I really sums up so much is early on at the wedding when Michael's talking to Kay. He says, "My father is no different than any other powerful man, any man with power, like a president or a senator." And that shows us so much about the morale, why these guys do what they do. And it kind of makes us understand why they do what they do. But it also allows Michael to excuse so many of his own actions and allows him to kind of become a monster by saying, "Hey, presidents kill people, people in high places kill people. We just do it. We do what we have to do." It's like the TV show The Sopranos. I remember Tony Soprano saying, "It's a war. We're at war," and that's how he excuses everything. And that's there's just so many great lines of dialogue that tell you so much, and a lot of exposition in this movie that's done so beautifully. Like, it doesn't feel like exposition. They tell us so much, but they do it in such artful ways. And man, the script, the direction, everything in this movie, to me, there's nothing that beats it. Even the great films, like, there's nothing that captivates me in the way and just is such solid storytelling the way The Godfather is.
Absolutely, 100%. And I'm going to leave it at that, Jeremy. I couldn't have said it any better than you just did. It's one of my favorite top 2 or 3 films I've ever seen in my entire life. And I watch it once or twice a year, just like I do part 2. I don't watch 1 without 2 because I watch them both together.
And I do have to say, the amazing thing is I personally even prefer 2, but it's tough call because they go hand in hand and they're both great films. But we'll get to that when we talk about 2. But the fact that they even this was supposed to be it. This was supposed to be only movie, but they took it even further. They built on it in such amazing ways. But yeah, this movie just in and of itself, I mean, if this is all we had, this is like just perfect storytelling. It's so groundbreaking, yet they called back to films of the past, yet they moved the art of cinema forward. And he was a director for hire, just doing a job, and yet a great artist sometimes can't help it. He can't help himself. He's got to make great art. And wow, everything came together with this film.
Absolutely. And it's a no-brainer. The Godfather is one of the most essential films of all time. And
top 3 for me.
So where can you be found?
Okay, you can find me. I'm at Jeremy Paul Adams on YouTube, Jeremy Paul Adams on Facebook. And then I'm also one of the, it was kind of mentioned earlier, but this is going to go on the Full Metal Media channel. I'm one of the head admins there. We do live trivia matches. We do talk shows, top 5 lists. I just launched my own show called Nostalgia Goggles, where we look back at things from our childhood. And then you can also find me on the Worldwide Movie Games Network, where I'm the head question writer for the There Will Be Trivia League over there. So check out that channel, if you will, and you'll find me in all these different places.
I can vouch for Jeremy. He's a very busy man, and trying to etch out some time to do the 52 must-see movies is very valuable to me that he's able to do this. So, you can find me at Dan Skip Allen on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. And hopefully in weeks to come, you'll see me more on the 52 must-see movies and why they matter. I got season 1. The videos are up on either they're going to be going to the Full Metal Media YouTube channel, but right now they're on the Best Damn Movie Show YouTube channel. So if you want to see more older episodes of season 1, that's where you can go until we get them uploaded to see Full Metal Media. So
and I have to say real quick, we're so happy to have the show on our network. I think it's a great addition, and we're just so happy to have this great content there. So thank you, Dan.
No, you're welcome. So for Jeremy and myself, good night.